Alright, so now I gotta figure out this one. What is this game from? Oh, that's a good question. So, also, it's kind of a trick question. Because it released in Japan and released in America at 2 different times. It was released 1990. Originally for the Famicom system. So the original NES. The version I am playing, though, is the 3D remake, which appears Where's the PSP launch? It didn't come to us until it was remade on the DS. 2006. It was the only Final Fantasy game not previously released in North America or Europe. I did not know that. That's the one that they held out on, this one. Final Fantasy III was the last one to get caught up to. Here in America, they released that in 2006. A PlayStation Portable version on late September 2002. That's the version I'm playing. That's the version we're playing. But it's a twat! I don't know why they held it back. A lot of the reasons a lot of the Final Fantasy games got held back for different reasons. Well, for not different reasons. The majority reason was that they felt that it wouldn't market well. Any particular Final Fantasy, they were like, oh no, Americans won't like that one. And I forget how it released in America originally. Like, the original American release order. So here's the difference. (1988) Final Fantasy II comes out. So we get Final Fantasy I across the board. America and Japan. In 86, 87, I forget. Final Fantasy II comes out in 1988. It doesn't come to us until they do the Final Fantasy Origins release on the PlayStation 1 in 2003, 15 years later. And then Final Fantasy III releases 1990 on the Famicom, and then doesn't come out to us until 16 years later when it comes out in the DS version. And then Final Fantasy V doesn't come to us until it releases in 92 out there. So we got 4, right? So we both got Final Fantasy 1. Final Fantasy 2 comes out in Japan, we get skipped on it. Final Fantasy 3 comes out in Japan, we get skipped on it. And then Final Fantasy 4 comes out in both countries, but it is Final Fantasy 2 here in America. And then Final Fantasy V, we get skipped on. And we don't get that until they make the Anthology Edition for PlayStation 1 10 years later. But then all of a sudden we get Final Fantasy VI, I think, is our Final Fantasy 3. And then Final Fantasy VII comes out, and that's the same across the world. Final Fantasy VI is America's Final Fantasy 3. And Final Fantasy IV is America's Final Fantasy 2. Too big to port to the WonderSwan color around 2000? Were they not porting it to just Nintendo Entertainment System? Which should have been able to port over from the Famicom. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't understand what the WonderSwan color is. Yeah, I never heard of that either. I'm wondering, like, if it was hard to port, I don't understand why it would be hard to port, because if they ported it to anything, they would port it to the NES. Japan only portable, so it was a handheld system. To the Game Boy Color. Oh, gotcha. So that, but I don't understand, why did Final Fantasy III... Are you not saying that that's the reason Final Fantasy III was held back in America? So that's my question then. I don't understand why it not being able to be ported to a handheld. I know, but the game comes out in 1990 in Japan, so why couldn't they just make it for the NES in 1990, which would have had a market? I understand why they ported it 16 years later for the 3D, Nintendo 3DS. That makes sense. Or not even the 3DS, it was just the DS, right? Yeah. I don't know why I kept saying 3DS, but why not? My question is, why did they not release it? Yeah, I'm not talking about the re-releases. I'm talking about the 1990 release of Final Fantasy III. Yeah, Final Fantasy 1 comes out in English. 2, we don't get. 3, we don't get. How much does that drop me? 8 points. We're gonna hold off on it. Do we got enough ribbons now, though? No, we need one more ribbon. Yeah, I was more asking about not so much why it took them 16 years to get it over, but why it just never... I mean, we get 1 as a co-launch, and then 2 and 3 doesn't get a co-launch. That's what I'm more curious about. Yeah, so that just goes back to what I'm saying, is the reason why Nintendo... Well, not Nintendo, but Squaresoft has that problem with the original releases is because for whatever case they believe that a particular Final Fantasy wouldn't have sold well, so that's why they were strategic about the releases of it. Yeah, it's Scylla. Who got hit the worst there? Oh, he got fucking turned to a stone. Yeah, well, Japan, yeah, that's my point, is the reason why we had those re-release issues is because Square didn't trust sales in America. And that's been a problem with a lot of Japanese companies for a long time, is they fail to release things in America, well, internationally, to be more accurate, due to they don't understand other markets than their own, and they're very focused on their own market. And that's a lot we've had this conversation before about why Monster Hunter, until Monster Hunter World, we weren't seeing a Monster Hunter launch on a console, and that's because they're not looking at the success of the American market or the international market for Monster Hunter. They were seeing how in Japan Monster Hunter sold like crazy on portable systems, and they're like, there's no market on a console. Yeah, I'm not saying that it's wrong, but they could market things in a way. They could have produced in a way where they hit the marks. There was a market for Final Fantasy 2 and 3 in America. It just wasn't a big one. And I'm sure after they took a look at it, it wasn't worth, you know, the translation cost of how much they would have made off the sales, and that's probably the reason why they pulled out of it, but we see that happen a lot, though. And I think the reason why we see it happen a lot is because Japan's the only other market in the world, aside from English-speaking markets, so the international market, that we care about their games. You know what I'm saying? So, like, the ebb of darkness is getting stronger. Soon none shall be able to stop it. As for you, you will never leave this place alive. Are we fighting another echidna? I mean, like, I'm sure there's games coming out in all these other countries. We just don't give a shit about them, right? So we don't care that they're not marketing it to America. But Japan actually makes games that we care about. Yeah, see, I heard that too. I didn't hear it about 5. I think I heard it. Man, maybe it was 5. I don't remember the number, but I remember them saying, like, they held back one because they didn't think it would sell well, because it was going to be too hard. Actually, to this day, Atlas is notorious, and I think the Western culture has proven them wrong effectively. But Atlas has been known for not releasing shit in America because they're like, it's too hard. The Americans can't handle it. And fucking From Software, I think America's proven with Dark Souls that we absolutely love the hard stuff. Stop going easy on us. Like, come on. Did he just cast Kiraja on himself? That bastard. Take these sticks to the face. So, I mean, but yeah, Japan's making the best decisions they can. And it's not the country, it's the companies in Japan that are making the best decisions they can. Based on the information they have. And hardcore gamers aren't a big enough market to get things on a boat and shipped over here, and to get them translated properly, because you can't go and do cheap translations, because people make fun of that shit and then nobody buys your fucking game, so you gotta be careful. I don't know why I'm boosting a third time, but I'm gonna actually go with it. Oh, she overboosted! Cute. Cute.